Alright there, just gonna start the player meetings here soon. Just kind of getting things ready.
Weekly prize packs today. during the rounds. I do have that pre-release kit, and then I'm gonna random off. Those are just random. We can be excited for everybody else.
at Geek City Games here in North Liberty, Iowa. The players are getting to their various tables. And let's see, do we have... Alright, we got players setting up. I am going to attempt to keep these health values current throughout the course of the day, but we'll see. We'll see. So the way these games are going to go is a 25-minute round. We're playing best of one and 340 is done. So players are allowed to look at the deck list of their opponent and make adjustments based on what they're going to play. Or failing players having a deck list, you just hand your deck to your opponent and they can look through it. So we've got Kylo Ren going into Hera. Now we what I know from set 1 and early set 2, I have to feel like Kylo is probably coming out a little bit favored here. Now, Hera does do some things that definitely work against what Kylo wants to do. If Hera can get her engine going and start making her units a little bit more durable, that can put Kylo in a position where his units aren't able to stick around long enough to actually effectively race. But Hera is susceptible to a lot of draw variants. I think is probably the kindest way to put it. The Spectre cards didn't get the most support in set 1, and they really didn't get that many new tools in set 2 that are going to support specifically the Spectre archetype. Now, there are a lot of fun new toys in set 2 that I expect we're going to see in both of these decks. So I think Kylo's taking the initiative on turn 1, and I feel like as a Kylo player, you definitely want to be taking the initiative on turn 1. This is a deck that's going to want to come out fast and hard, and Hera definitely is a little bit more of a let's get set up, moves at a little bit of a slower pace. Now, interestingly, Hera, man. So we've got 2 double down decks here for our first match today. Not something you saw a lot of in set 1, although double yellow Boba saw some play, double blue Iden. Ooh, I like seeing that Kanan for the Hera player here, but that's a long way off. Did Kylo set their hand face up? Oh man, don't do that, dude. So you gotta wonder if Kylo is feeling at all like there's a clock here. Because if this goes to the late game, if this is the type of green deck where we start to see U-wing reinforcements, we start to see command come down, some of these powerful double green cards, the late game is not where Kylo wants to be. We got a mulligan from Hera. That looks like a mulligan from Kylo as well. Based on what we can see from from Hera's hand here, I gotta think we're gonna see a Mon Mothma come out and then get it wing leadered up on the subsequent turn. All right, both players got their starting resources down, and here we go. Pay one from Kylo. Oh, that glare is bad. I'm thinking it's probably a Death Star Stormtrooper based on it being one cost, but I genuinely can't tell with that amount of glare. Sabine coming down for Hera. Whoa, that traitorous could be a spicy play, especially if Hera can find some ramp here in the early game. So now the question for Hera here is, do you want to try to engage in the race, or do you want to try to set your board up in a more durable way? I think probably getting that wing leader out and making Sabine more durable is likely to pay off, but I could see just banking the 3 damage, getting that attack in with Sabine, and kind of daring Kylo, hey, if you don't clean this up, now you're also on a clock. All right, so we've got, looks like 3 damage. Yep, wing leader comes down, stacks up Sabine. Have to imagine there's going to be... Do you go base here, or do you try to clear the unit? Oh man, we're going to have to do something about this glare between this game and next. Sabine plus wing leader swings in for a pretty good amount of damage there. Taking our Kylo player up to 6. This is probably not where you want to be as the Kylo Ren player. You want to be the person who's stacking the turn 1, the turn 2 damage, and be the early game aggressor. But here we see Hera coming out and applying the pressure. And that kind of puts you in the position as Kylo of asking the question, like, are you going to have to abandon plan A and race and actually fight for board and try to control some of these units? Given the state of the board and Kylo being 1 ahead, looking to deploy here, it's probably, I predict he's going to push for base damage here rather than try to deal with the Sabine, like force the Hera player to deal with the trades. Activating to discard a card, gonna give somebody +2 attack here. So that +2 attack landed on, I believe it was the turn 1 play, which I think was the Death Star Stormtrooper. It did attack for 3 damage on turn 2, but I have not been able to get a good look at it with the glare. Sabine swinging in again for another 5 damage is crazy value out of a 2-cost unit. Ooh, yeah, I think I agree with that play there. It looked like our Hera player stopped to consider potentially throwing down a Dodonna instead, but given the state of the board, getting Kane and Jarrus down there, this gives potential healing. It starts to rip cards off the top of the deck. This early into... Oh, so that deals 1 damage to both players when it comes into play. That must be that new card. Gosh, what's it called? The Reckless something? The Reckless Gunslinger. So Kylo's out there. There's at least 2 more attacks. It feels like these health values are going to flip here. And it looks like Hera's all tapped out, so I'm not sure what's being considered. What turn does Hera flip? Not till 5, right? Oh, not till 6. Yeah, so it's too early for Hera to flip. I'm not sure what else could be considered here. Alright, looks like Kylo confirmed Reckless Gunslinger. And that's going to be attacking for 4 with the Kylo bonus. Yeah, so 4 damage on cannon. Have to assume this last attack is going to go into cannon and clear it off. Our Kylo player, I think, correctly identified the threat. That Partisan Insurgent printed 1/4, but gets raid 2 when you control another red unit, so that attacks for 3. I think we have a slight dispute about whether the Insurgent did 3 damage or... We'll finish off with Tarkin Town. Okay, I get it. So now we've got a damage race that looks a lot more like what Kylo wants to be seen. Probably not as far ahead as they would like to be, as we're coming into turn 5, turn 6, when Hera is going to be able to deploy or play larger units and eventually deploy that leader. But with the board being this stripped, and we can see from Hera's hand here, I see a Dodonna, but I'm trying to see if there's any other solid units. That Traitors could be relevant, although it feels a little bad. Yeah, the only unit that could be traitorous here is that Reckless Gunslinger. I mean, maybe you do it just to stop the bleeding and buy another turn, but that's going to be your whole turn to steal a 1-drop. That doesn't feel very good. Okay, so instead we see a Spark. So this is going to force Kylo to reveal his whole hand. Have to assume the Punishing One is going to get ditched here. Yeah. Let him keep the 1-drop. Oh, reconsidering. I think he was right the first time. You got to get rid of that Punishing One. I don't think there's anything in Hera's hand that is going to allow him to get into space, let the Hera player get into space. So forcing Kylo to fight on the ground is definitely the right play. Plus, Punishing One is just a higher value unit than the 1-cost Death Star Stormtrooper. So the Stormtrooper comes into play. That empties the hand, so this makes Kylo into his full value attack. He gets -1. Normally Kylo gets -1 attack for each card in your hand, so by emptying his hand, Kylo is now going to be able to swing as a 5 plus whatever that upgrade is that he has on. Okay, Chopper comes out for Hera. I think if you're in Kylo's shoes, you don't even care about Chopper. You just go base. Yeah. And now Hera is potentially in some trouble. Choosing to clean up the chopper, probably not necessary, but this guarantees your opponent can't have some kind of a sneaky swing or a way to beef that unit up. Hera's whole thing is about snowballing, so while generally I think Kylo probably wants to push as much damage as possible, taking a turn to essentially waste, well, not waste, but use an attack to make sure that the board is clear makes a lot of sense. So with 2 cards in hand, Kylo's now -2 attack. If Kylo can get those in hand and attack with both units that he has in play, that is representing lethal damage. Fortunately, Dodonna, while powerful card, 4/4 unit with an effect that buffs everything else on the board that's a rebel. If there's no rebels on the board, it's not doing a lot. So we see Kylo opt to send the Death Star Stormtrooper into base. If he can get those hands emptied or has some other buff. Right now, Kylo being -2. Okay, Hera comes out. Some kind of a space unit. We know Kylo's running Punishing One. Question is, does Hera try to crash into Kylo here and just eat a bunch of damage? Because I think Kylo's at 7, which is enough to... Okay, so Hera opts to also try to race. Taking our Kylo player up to 17 damage. And with that, we have GG. With Kylo's hand empty, he's able to attack in. Alright, I'm going to go see if I can adjust the camera angle a little bit and maybe fix some of that glare. So we adjusted the camera. Just did our glare test here to see if it helped, and it looks like we're in a better spot now. So as the night goes on, if we need to make adjustments, we will. All right, so that first game, Hera really never got off the ground. Like, she came out with a little bit of a strong start, but Kylo was able to make the turn and ultimately completely ran her over. Going into game 2, we'll see what kind of match we get. Most of the games are wrapped up. So as we go into set 2, there's a lot of interesting threads to pull with regard to these new leaders. I've definitely heard some people talking about how set 1 leaders generally feel like they're stronger, but the set 2 leaders kind of have these like kind of gimmicky, interesting things. Like Dr. Aphra is a great example, and I'm a huge fan of Dr. Aphra. I think the idea of self-milling the cards into your discard pile and then potentially going in and getting them back out with some of our recursion stuff, particularly that's available within command, treating your KO pile like a second hand, essentially a second deck that you can draw your resources from. That seems really interesting, but I think it's objectively, obviously, a jankier, less direct way to just win games compared to something like, what was our jankiest player in set 1? Maybe Hera, potentially Thrawn. And given that Thrawn and Aphra are both in-cunning, I think comparing them is kind of appropriate. Like, they both do these really unique things. But I definitely think with the introduction of set 2, Thrawn has jumped up. Hey, what's up, man? How'd your first round go?
Well, I won it, but it was close.
Yeah?
Let me tell you, Leia is a good aggro answer.
Yeah.
He is so anti-aggro, it's nuts. I'm playing Han Green with ECL,
Okay.
and he had me down to the point where Prey Dragon was my savior.
Oh,
Played Prey.
you played Billy.
I did.
Oh, yeah, Billy told me about that.
If he had claimed early, he probably would have taken me. But Ewing, which let me put the 7 on base, took him in kill range.
How close did you get?
I would have had 1 health left if he had claimed and swung with Leia,
Oh, man.
and so it would have been really close. All he would have needed was
So you're paying 11 for Great Dragon, then, if you're on...
Crate is just red. He's not black.
Red,
Mhm.
okay. Oh, so you're playing the new Han.
New Han.
You said Han Green, I assumed.
Right.
Yellow Green.
Right.
but okay.
Red green Han.
So young Han in red. Yeah. Well, a 9-cost Great Dragon is pretty good.
I'll say it. With Han, it's even better.
Oh.
Yeah, I was able to get it out there, and if he had claimed and swung with Leia, I would have been on 1. And then I don't know if he would have had it out because Ewing is tough. Do we know if Ewing, since you play Ewing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ewing says to play the cards.
Oh, wow.
Is that double trigger? Would Trade Dragon do 14?
Let me see if I have a Great Dragon here that we can reference.
Because I think he would do 14. I didn't want to do it to him
It
just in
doesn't
case.
say opponent plays a card from hand. It just says plays a card.
Okay.
And
So then Ewing really wasn't close.
says plays a card.
It does. It says you may play, choose units up to the total cost 7 and play this card.
So he would have taken 14 if he did the Yikes.
Don't play Ewing into Crate.
Okay, well that was a double, not the right play.
Right.
That's tough.
That is tough.
But these are the kinds of things that players are going to run face first into.
Absolutely.
Particularly this early in the set. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's officially released yesterday.
Yesterday.
I mean,
Little launch
I know.
weekend tournament.
Yeah, we've had pre-release packs for this has been out, right? And the card spoilers have been out. So like we know some of the stuff conceptually, but at least for me, the difference between looking at the cards online and figuring
Oh,
out
yeah,
and
absolutely.
having them in my hands.
So different. Even playing against AI is different than playing in person.
Oh,
And even playing digitally, for me, is a different experience than in person. Like the atmosphere of being across the table from your opponent it adds something for me. It's a little bit more mind gamey. And if you're
Better.
playing between 2 screens,
I prefer it,
me too.
but I can't play 15 games
Right.
back to back to back, like while I'm making dinner. with
That's
somebody.
always a plus. Yeah, the being able to read your opponent's mannerisms, I think, is a really cool part of played in person too.
Oh,
Oh, fair enough.
all right, fair
Nice.
enough, All right, so as we're going into round two here, looks like there's some conversation is. All right. Oh, hey. Thanks, James. I forgot to turn down the I walked away from the mic music. That was probably way too loud. Appreciate the save there, chat. Okay, so fingers crossed we got the glare issue taken care of between rounds. Got my background music turned down so it's not overpowering what we have to say here. Again, I'm going to do my best to keep track of health in real time on the screen, but we'll see how it goes. In the first game, it was pretty easy. Game two, it's going to some degree depend on how well I can track what the players are doing. So hopefully we can keep this up to date for everybody. Okay, so we have another Kylo. Is this the same Kylo? I think this might be the same Kylo. And I saw a Kylo Starfighter in the opponent's deck. Is this going to be a Kylo Mir? Or wait, no, that was Kylo's deck. Okay, so again, if you missed it in game one, the way these matches are being played is that when the players sit down, they each either exchange a deck list or hand their deck over for the opponent to take a look at. Then players have an opportunity to make swaps from their sideboard. Given that this is kind of a release weekend celebration tournament, a lot of players' decks are not fully complete. Ooh, Darth Vader. Okay, interesting. All right, so Vader versus Kylo. So, some inter-family violence here. All right, getting set up here. I see Kylo's holding the initiative now, but I'm not sure they've rolled for it. You got to imagine both players want to go first here. Both players roll a 1 and a 6. So it looks like Vader is going to take the initiative here. I think it's generally good practice to always have your opponent cut your deck, even in casual environments. I like to just build the muscle memory of always doing that. All right, so our Darth Vader player, I believe, is one of our first timers, having not played in a tournament before, and I think this is only like sub 20 times playing the game entirely, and I love seeing this kind of stuff. My advice to everybody is always, when you find a new game that you like, find a tournament and go play it, and like lose some games. Like in competitive environments, especially when you're new, you're likely to lose some games, but you learn so much from those experiences. Um, That that said, if you're the kind of person who a loss is going to destroy your ego, maybe that's bad advice. All right, so both players opting to mulligan here. There might be some similarities in terms of how these decks stack up against each other. compared to our first game, where Kylo, again, is going to be coming in trying to be the beatdown, and the opponent is going to be a deck that's a little bit more synergy based and wanting to drag things out and build up to an emphatic end game state. Like once the Darth Vaders start coming out, uh, and these other big, beefy, impactful end game threats, that's when Kylo gets into a lot of trouble. So the 25 health base, 25 starting health on the base is certainly threatening. Uh, but I think Kylo cares more about the ability to kill a problematic unit than giving that health up, and he's going to be trying to run this game into the ground. So the Snowtrooper, not the ideal recruit from Darth Vader. I'm sure he would rather have got a Death Star Stormtrooper and been able to do a ping there, but sometimes you just got to get something to the board. The Bo-Katan coming down from Kylo, and Bo is one of our new cards. I'm actually going to look up what she does. I don't have her memorized yet. 3/3 for 2. When defeated, each player with 15 or more damage on their base draw a card. All right. So at this point, she's just a 2-cost 3/3, so essentially a Battlefield Marine. But if she sticks around for a while, she potentially could let Kylo draw some cards when she goes away. So there's a question here of, is the Snowtrooper going to try to hit Bo or go straight? Okay, going straight for base. So I could have seen a line where Snowtrooper went into Bo and then tried to follow up with a play of some kind to use Darth Vader's power to clear that unit. Punishing one coming down for Kylo. Punishing one is kind of like Red 3 in the sense that it is a solid low-cost space unit, and I think it's probably going to be everywhere. Unlike the Green Squadron A-Wing, which is kind of just good all the time, Punishing one does require an enemy with an upgrade on it to be defeated in order to like ready an attack again. But even just as a 3-cost 3/4, this can do some damage in space. Especially when you think about Kylo potentially turning that into a 5/4 unit for the turn by discarding a card. Okay, Kylo takes initiative, and it looks like we're going into turn 3. Or 4, rather. Well, turn 3, 4 resources. So I think as Vader, you're feeling okay so far. Kylo hasn't exploded out to the board with a ton of stuff. The Force Choke was able to mop up the Bo-Katan. But the threat is still there. Like, there's a bunch of cards in hand still. Oh, jeez. This is not what you want to see as Darth Vader. So, punishing one's going to get +2 attack here and be able to swing in for 5. The card that was discarded to Kylo's ability is his TIE Silencer, which gives that card the ability to be played from the discard pile this turn. Grand Moff Tarkin coming down for Darth Vader is going to let him, I believe it's the top 5 cards of the deck. And is it any Imperial units? There might be a limit on it. But Tarkin is going to let the Vader player go into his deck and grab up to 2 Imperial cards. So this can be a real solid play as you're building into your late game. Like for the Vader player to transition from the kind of early game mode to get set up, yeah, you've got to reveal the cards. Oh man. They're sort of perfectly situated with the glare that we can't see what they are. Oh, that's not an Imperial. So it looks like, okay. And is that a cell block guard? Yeah. So, all right. Upon inspection, one of those cards was not actually Imperial. These things happen when we have new players. So, taking a turn to play a somewhat weaker body and get a card back in hand. This is probably not the kind of turns Vader wants to be doing. Like with how much danger Kylo Ren represents, like Kylo could come out here, and so I believe Benthic is only one attack printed. Yeah, oh, two. Okay, so the Snowtrooper takes two back. And this is what Vader wants to do is try to keep the board clear, try to make sure that they're not eating huge chunks of damage. And as I say that, punishing one comes in for 5, which is a pretty substantial chunk of damage. Yeah, Benthic's at 2-2. All right, fifth brother. So Kylo keeps presenting these threats, and while Vader hasn't been able to build much of a board so far, he has kind of kept things under control. But this is where things can start to get really out of hand. Uh, so Kylo deploys, and then Kylo is able to use the last card in hand to get their hand completely emptied. So now Kylo's going to have the full 5 attack, and I have to assume he's going to swing into the snowtrooper that he put the bounty on. The guild target bounty will allow Kylo to deal damage to the base, and 2 damage to the base since it's not a unique unit that got killed. And oh, gotta add that 2 damage as well.
Space presence.
It's crazy how the board can feel kind of stable and under control. And then Kylo flips and changes everything. I'm a little surprised we didn't see Kylo's TIE Fighter played from the discard pile last turn, but getting the hand empty to make Kylo be able to attack in for 5 was probably a higher priority. So you gotta think Fifth Brother. Yeah, so Fifth Brother will clean the Sentinel out of the way. Does he have Overwhelm? I think I might be confusing him with the sister who has actually not even Overwhelm either, but Saboteur. Yeah. All right, so Fifth Brother being a 2/4, but gets raid 1 for each damage he has, and he has the ability to deal damage to himself when he attacks. So that's a pretty clean way to just trade those units off. Tarkin swinging in for a couple more damage, but definitely not where Vader wants to be. So you got to think Hilo is wanting to bank as much damage as possible as quickly as possible. But with 2 cards in hand, the difference between Kylo attacking and punishing 1 attacking is basically negligible. So 3 more damage, taking our Vader player up to 20. Now this is not an insurmountable place to be, considering how strong Vader's late game can be. Gosh. So just direct damage from hand for 2 more damage. Oh, and then of course Kylo attacks in once. Holy smokes. What could Vader play here that could bail out of this situation? I don't think there's any healing. I mean, all of the big boy, an overwhelming barrage could get there if he could deploy Vader first, but he'll die before it. Oh, yeah. Draw your cards. I'm your father is not going to get you out of this one. Also, Kylo, it looks like Kylo is able to run down a second opponent in a row. All right, GG for Kylo. So, this game 1 went very similar to game 2. Things seemed kind of evenish for the first couple of turns, and once we hit turn 4 and Kylo came out, it turned into a bit of a bloodbath. Yeah, GG for the Kylo player. These kind of there is something to this. The Vader deck and the Hera deck, both of these are decks that move a little bit slower, and they kind of require the right draw and for things to fall into place in the correct way. And if they don't, you can end up in a position where you're really just not able to hang with these faster decks. I am curious to see what's going to happen once we start seeing Kylo versus Sabine, and we have these aggro versus aggro races, and maybe the more solid like mid-range decks that are just putting out like a big threat every turn, playing with Sentinels and Shields to try to get those value trades. It sure seems like we may be having another set in a row where the early leaders are aggro, but that is also something that's relatively common within TCGs. Aggro decks tend to have pretty linear strategies, and you're trying to win the game in fewer actions than say like control or mid-range. And because of that, I'm not a person who thinks that aggro decks are like less than or like that's silly. Every deck requires good piloting to play it well, and aggro is no exception. But figuring out optimal strategies and then drilling those strategies with aggro is a little bit easier than it is with the control decks because they're a little bit linear and you have, again, fewer total actions per game to think about. So again, not low skill, but just different skills. And often in new TCG sets, the aggro decks come out looking very strong early in the game. So that's 2 Kylo games in a row. We'll see if maybe we can get something a little bit different for the next one. I'll see if maybe I can get some players to talk to. looking at the mute button. Jeez. Okay. So let's everybody's still busy. So I'm just going to talk about leaders for a little bit. So looking at our set 1 leaders, I think there are not necessarily clear winners and losers, but there's certainly people who more obviously got really good tools. If you look at set 2 and you just search for the keyword rebel, you're not going to see a whole lot of hits, but the hits that you do see are things like Cassian. Paying 3 for a 3/5 is fine in, say, your Sabine deck, but paying 5 for a 3/5 that comes in ready, sometimes that's just game. Being able to play a unit that comes in ready, being able to have these extra ambushes. Like, I now think there's an argument in Sabine about potentially abandoning ECL entirely and just working with the 30 health base and running timely interventions instead, so that you can give ambush to your units, but you do it when you want and it's not so telegraphed and not so obvious. Similarly, leaders like Leia are really going to benefit from timely intervention, and Tarkin, probably for similar reasons. Also, now having the generic Rebel Assault in the form of Outflank. There's all of these tools are supporting our set 1 leaders, and let's not forget how hard I carried the banner for Thrawn in set 1, and things like Bazine Natal and Evacuate in particular are cards that are really going to slot right into that Thrawn deck and give you the ability to end friendships and make people mad at you even more. Being able to evacuate on potentially turn 6 or even 5 if you've got Bib Fortuna, and putting everything back in somebody's hand. Yes, they can put the things back out, but that's like a whole reset, and then once they repopulate, now we're into our super laser blast turn. So I think Thrawn's stock is going to rise quite a bit with these set 2 cards. Out of the set 2 leaders, I've talked about Afra probably more than I should. I think everybody understands that Afra is a little bit of a meme at this point, but I think Jabba probably has some legs. 12 defense on a leader is no joke, especially with some of the upgrades that are flying around now. Just being able to keep him around while his built-in like snatch ability isn't as good as Palpatine's, and his discount power may not be as relevant, just having that 12 butt. I get that Palp has a big butt too, but I feel like Jabba's big slug butt is going to be able to keep him around, and if we're just going later and later into the game, recycling things like Salacious Crumb, and being able to deal that ping damage while you're building into your finalizers, and potentially even your 14 cost legions, that seems real. That does not seem like a meme deck to me. Now, the problem I see with specifically the Endless Legions card, paying 14 is a huge amount, like a really huge amount, and I'm not sure I even like that card necessarily in green double down. So potentially I'm talking about paying 16 for it by trying to splash in another color, use some of those other control tools in healing, like green blue that has healing and the ability to go deep and go late, and then pay that penalty for Endless Legions and vomit out a bunch of like 9 drops or whatever on turn 16. Seems like that's going to win games, and you're not subject to the old, oh, Mill isn't cool, that's not a fun way to play. Hey man, I'm playing units, I'm just playing all of them all at once. So I think that's got some legs. I think Han Solo and Kylo Ren are both decks that have legs looking at the set 2 leaders. I am not convinced that any of the aggressively slanted leaders are going to be sufficiently powerful in set 2 to dethrone Sabine as kind of our main aggro leader. I think Sabine's package is just, it just works so well. Everything about how she functions, and then having the fur causes as kind of the finishers. Like, Kylo has certainly performed well on stream for the last 2 games, but how is he going to perform against a Sabine that's trying to rip his face off and forces the Kylo player to maybe like have to make trades and act a little more defensively? I'm not sure, but I'm super interested to find out. I don't know what the field is today. In fact, maybe I should try to find out what the field is. but that's a matchup I'd like to see, is the aggro Sabine Kylo match. I mean, I'd like to see it more than once and really dig into how these aggro decks are going to shape out. With the young Han, I mean, I do think he's going to be aggressively slanted, but his like discount power doesn't necessarily pigeonhole him into only playing super aggressively. You could use him almost as like a pseudo ramp, like a soft ramp in a way, to get units out earlier, and that could make you put that into a mid range, or put a mid range shell around him, and now essentially you're playing mid range, but all your units are one cost bigger than your opponent's units. That feels pretty strong. Jansen was in here earlier talking about playing Han essentially like a control deck with the Great Dragons at the end. That feels pretty strong too. So those are the leaders that kind of like immediately jump out at me. Cad Bane seems very playable, although maybe a little pigeonholed given how his keyword requires you to play specifically the underworld characters. Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Want to chat?
Yeah, sure.
How are your games going so far?
Good, good. 2-0 at the moment, so feeling pretty good.
Okay, what are we on?
I am playing Woo's GI Yellow
Okay.
OTK deck in a best of one.
Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah. I played it in a showdown we did here for set 1.
Yeah.
Tools now.
Yeah.
And the Mandos, the 5-drop Mandos, can really hit really hard with Raid 3.
So, out of the set 2 cards, what were you most excited to I know you've been working on this since set 1. So what was the toy that you were like, oh, I got to open this and get it into that deck?
the Mando 5-drop.
Yeah.
Raid 3 on a 3/6 body. You can get 18 damage pretty easily with, you know.
my God.
I mean, it's a great. I really not. That's not my deck I'm focused on for set 2, but for a best of 1, I thought it would really catch people off guard.
Sure.
Kind of a fun
Sure.
interaction to play with. So that's what I brought today.
Cool. Has it? I mean, I hear you're 2-0, but is the deck functioning and drawing the way you want it to, or are these hard fought matches? Like, how do you feel about your games?
Sure. The first game, it popped off because I was able to swing for 18 damage with him. So the first game, it went super well.
That feels like it shouldn't even be allowed.
Yeah, I was playing against a Tarkin Yellow space deck. That was close. He had his TIE Phantom up to 7, or it was would have been a 5/5. So then plus the Raid 2, it was hitting for 7. So luckily, I had the Mandos to outpace that.
I mean, that
otherwise,
also feels like it shouldn't be allowed.
yeah, it was also a very brutal thing to. Luckily, I got ahead of it. So that one came down to the wire. And then the second game, played against the Yellow Sabine with some of the new tools that she has. But I had Force Choke on her flip. So that felt bad for my opponent, I'm sure.
Yeah, have a card.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you
Kept
feel
it in my
good about
opening.
that?
Kept it in my opening hand. You know, obviously that's something you do against her. And
Better than takedown.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was
For
scared
sure.
of Darksaber, and I was like, okay, well, I have to play something first action to get rid of her in case Darksaber's coming. He sadly drew it the second phase, the phase after, so I got lucky there.
Well, and that's the danger with these Sabine decks now. Like, the old standby was like, oh, you can let Sabine attack once, who cares? I'll
Right.
just take her down next turn. Well, now, if you don't deal with her right away, they Darksaber her, and your takedown doesn't work, your force chokes don't work.
Right.
Like, you end up in real trouble.
Yeah, and I think as a Sabine player, right, you just have to be like, well, they either have it or they don't have it,
Mhm.
right? Like, so you just play your Darksaber if you can right away, and I think that sets you up for a very,
Now,
quick pace game.
If this was a Sabine yellow, isn't Darksaber command? So were they playing it for 6?
Well, she's a Mandalorian, so because of the Darksaber
Yep.
text,
Good
she gets
bit.
to play that for 4 as well. So Sabine into Darksaber is terrifying. So
Yeah. No matter what flavor.
yeah.
Oh, are they doing pairings? Oh, all right, man. Get out there. Right, let's get my face out of here and go back to our... Okay. Oh, it looks like our round 2 people are just now cleaning up. Okay. So I am excited to hear that there is at least one Sabine flying around. Given that we've seen Kylo win twice and we've heard about that Sabine losing once, I don't know if they're going to face each other this time, but that is a matchup I would like to see. Based on this nonsense Al was just saying about his Grand Inquisitor deck popping off for 18 damage, this is also something I'd like to see Oh no, we have audio problems now? Let me make sure there's nothing consuming any background resources. Oh, wow. So I don't know what we're going to see here, but this playmat is a strong start to this game already. Oh, is this the Grand Inquisitor? Is this Al? Okay. So this is Al, who was just in here talking about his Grand Inquisitor deck. Um, we're gonna get to see it played now. My guess is the cards set off to the side are the sideboard. I don't wish everybody had deck lists because then I could screenshot them and then reference them while we were doing this. But hey, it is what it is. Next time, next time we'll get everybody to sub deck lists in advance. Okay, glad that audio issue cleared up. So if I can see a shoulder, okay, it's the same playmat, but it looks like it's different clothes. So I don't think we're going to see Kylo Ren here at table one again. Okay, Young Han. And do I see yellow cards? No, Young Han red. Okay. Lot of aggressive choices that we've seen so far. I will say, being a control player who loves to play slower decks where I have to make lots and lots and lots of choices over the course of the game, playing at Geek City Games here in North Liberty, this is an aggro heavy meta. And there have been some events that have felt downright brutal where I come in and just it's like a foot race. And I'm like, no, I don't want to race. I want to go real slow. Uh, I want to make these games go to turn 15, and I have not always been afforded that by my local meta here. Okay. So now Al does have the opportunity to make some sideboard adjustments. We see the Fang Fighters from pawn. Oh, no changes? Okay. Yeah, Banana, the best of one with pre-boarding. So players are, well, they were asked to bring deck lists, present the deck list with sideboard to their opponent, and then players have the opportunity to do any pre-boarding. Uh, so far, at least on stream, everybody has simply presented their deck and let their opponent go through the deck rather than look at a deck list, which accomplishes roughly the same thing. Uh, but sitting here in the back room where I can't thumb through the deck, it would have been cool to have deck lists. So it does make for an interesting environment. And part of the reason the decision was made to go with the best of one is just time consideration. The 55-minute rounds with best of threes, even with an aggro heavy meta like we have here at Geek City, we had a lot of matches going to time every time. Uh, and as much as we love playing cards, like we also like getting home in time for supper. So do you think the best of three format has its place, and I like playing it, but I also like playing in a lot of events. So having these events that really cool too. looked like a 6, and I missed what Inquisitor rolled, but I don't see the initiative token changing hands, so I'm guessing he won. So Mud Turtle, I see you there in the chat. I'm running the stream. This is a best of one release tournament hosted at my local game store, Geek City Games here in North Liberty, Iowa. Uh, and they asked me to do commentary and run a stream this time instead of playing, which I jumped at the opportunity because I love doing this stuff. So I actually came in early and ran my cables through the drop ceiling, so there wouldn't be any trip hazards or anything. It made for a very interesting morning. Ooh, are we gonna see that? So, Bazine Natal on Grand Inquisitor's side here introduces some really interesting questions because do you want to play her on turn one, or do you want to throw her down into the resource row and maybe play something else? I like the flexibility these smuggle cards have given us. Um, so this is starting round 3 right now. Think. I think we've got another round or two before we cut. I don't know exactly. Um, some of the announcements have happened when I've been in here rather than out there where the players are. So I am kind of hiding in the back room here at the shop to make sure the players can't overhear any of this commentary because, of course, that would be completely unacceptable. Yeah, Banana, that's a good point. We don't know for sure if the Starfighters came into the deck from the sideboard. Uh, but that's a very good combination with Bazine. So Han getting a unit out for discount here to start turn 1, and Inquisitor claims. I don't know what's going on, but I just heard somebody shout Sundari Peacekeeper. Oh, so here comes Bazine. Let's guess. What does he make him discard? I'm gonna guess K2SO. No, Wit didn't play in this one. He opted to go to the jujitsu class instead of taking another Saturday off for a tournament, which as much as I would have liked to have him here and call some of his games, showing up for the jujitsu that you signed up for is also something I encourage. Yeah, Targentown certainly, uh, that's a good call, Banana. Uh, it kind of punishes what Inquisitor wants to do. Oh man, we got damage on base, but I can't tell how much. I think that's 2 damage. And 2 on blue. So I'm going to try to keep these damage counters accurate as we go through the game. Uh, but I don't have audio, so I have to kind of watch it as it's applied. So if I get off a little bit, I apologize in advance. Yeah, I'm a little surprised K2SO was allowed to hit the board, given the Bazine play. But Al was in here just before this round talking about how his deck can combo off for 18 damage. Uh, and when you're putting up those kinds of numbers, maybe you don't have to stress out about the little things like K2SO. uh, So Fighters for Freedom, uh, given its text and the way it turns every aggression affiliated unit into direct damage to base, uh, as much as Al probably wants to be going face as much as possible, that's a threat I think he kind of has to address. Uh, that's not even to mention the Saboteur and the attack value that Fighters for Freedom can put out there. Just its ping can really make close games out of reach. I'm not surprised to see K2SO swing. Think this is going to take Grand Inquisitor up to 6. If at any point I'm able to get a clear view on those dice and realize my health count's wrong, I'll adjust it, but I think he's at 6 now. Swinging in with, what is it called, the Skrick or something? I don't have that card name memorized yet, but it's a 2 damage kind of neat space unit. I'm gonna look it up here real fast. Privateer Skick. SCYK. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. So the Carabas play from Young Han is able to deal with the punishing one. That feels pretty rough for the Inquisitor. I think he was probably looking at the ability to actually use the Inquisitor to start readying and doing some attacks. 2 more damage hitting base with the Privateer. Oh, it's pronounced sick? Okay, I'll believe you. K2SO puts another. I think that's going to bring our Inquisitor player up to 10. So if you're rooting for the Inquisitor here, I don't think you feel good about the way Han's ground arena is looking. That potentially is going to get out of hand. Oh, okay. So Bazine, oh gosh, those choices. I feel like you've got to go after the for a cause here, right? Nope, aggression. Okay, so both times I've tried to predict what the Inquisitor would do, I have been incorrect. Looks like the Fighters for Freedom swung into base. Yeah, I guess aggression is more immediate. Maybe I'm just trauma response. Oh, wow, a smuggle on the side of Young Han here. Uh, I think we're going up to. So we see Cassian come out, smuggled from the row, comes into play ready, attacks for 3. Han has deployed. I think I think we've got 25 damage on Inquisitor now, although I am having a little bit of difficulty reading those dice. But it's looking pretty dire for our Inquisitor combo deck here. That for a cause is. Ooh, okay. So sneak attack, huh? Well, here comes the fur cause. One, two, and three. Oh, and one of them's for a cause. So the Bo-Katan miss is going to get thrown out of the way, and we're going to set up another. If he can draw a card here, oh, throwing them all away. Okay. Oh, and there it is. Okay. Well, the Inquisitor was not able to get it done that time. Young Han was able to shut him down with just unrelenting pressure from the units. And I think I might have made a couple errors on HP tracking there. I was forgetting the Fighters for Freedom procs. So uh, that is why the damage added up so quick there at the end. There was a point where I had to kind of catch up. So again, we see two generally aggressive decks facing off. So over the course of the day today, I realized we saw Kylo twice, uh, a couple mid-range, a couple aggressive decks here. The Inquisitor having that combo element to it uh, maybe makes it a little bit less of a pure aggression deck. But if you're talking about doing early game combos for 18 damage, that feels pretty aggressive to me. That Cassian card, wow, it has really made a difference in Sabine. I realize I keep coming back to uh, the Sabine deck, but being that she was the reigning aggro queen in season one or set one, I think kind of seeing how she weighs up against these new leaders makes a lot of sense. And this tool of a 3 cost 3/5 is ridiculous. I don't know that it necessarily made the difference in that game, but we had two smuggle actions there. We had Bazine smuggle out, discard a card, and then we had Cassian smuggle out and just attack for damage. And when the game's going this quick, when the damage is building up this fast, it the control tool of Bazine does not compare favorably to the aggro tool of Cassian. So going forward, I think we're going to go ahead and leave my the USB cable that I have that I strung through the ceiling today. I think we're actually going to leave that here set up at the shop so that when we do our next tournament, I won't have to climb through the ceiling again, and we'll be able to keep doing these and having more of these commentary events because we've done not every weekend, but we do tournaments pretty regularly. And being able to watch the players and actually talk about it is something I enjoy a great deal. Uh, so let's see. I haven't spent a tremendous amount of time talking about the starter decks. I don't think I've mentioned them really at all for set two, but I feel like compared to set one, now let me check my bias here. The Step 1 starter decks were revealed way in advance with like the smaller Gen Con versions of them. And the Luke Invader got played a lot, like a lot, a lot, a lot. Uh, so I got to a point where I kind of knew both of those decks inside and out. And that means you know their strengths, but you also know their weaknesses. Now, digging into Moff Gideon and Mandalorian yesterday, uh, me and Wit cracked them open, and we just banged the starter decks against each other like we did with Luke and Vader. And I was pleasantly surprised by how well tuned the decks felt. Now they're not completely optimized. They're not packed full of rares. They don't have all the legendary cards you need. So there is still area for improvement in these starter decks. But whereas like the Darth Vader one felt like it was like a third of a deck that was missing a bunch of important pieces. Um, I didn't feel that way playing Moff. It felt like Moff Gideon had a full complement. Again, maybe not the most optimized, maybe not the best version of that deck, but like a legitimately playable version. And the Mandalorian deck also felt pretty strong. So I think that's a step in the right direction. I know the idea of having starter exclusive cards is going to make all of us buy the starter decks, even if they suck. But I like the idea that a player could be like, hey, I want to get involved in this. I'm going to buy a starter deck. And maybe they're not going to win the event. They're not going to have the most powerful stuff. Uh, but you don't feel like you're just completely hopeless. I feel like taking a Luke Skywalker deck or the Darth Vader deck into competitive events makes you feel pretty. Hey, what's up, man?
What?
You want to talk about your rounds?
Sure.
Sit down. All right. So, what are you playing?
I'm playing Leia. Leia Command or Cunning. Cunning.
Okay.
Yeah. I lost my first two. I think you probably talked to, is his name MJ?
Yeah, Jansen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what we figured out? U-wing
I would want-
reinforcements says
Yeah.
play those units. So not only do you take 7 from playing the card, you would take from the so you should have taken actually 14 damage
Holy
from
crap.
Great Dragon. Yeah, he was like, I didn't have the heart to tell him that. So while we were chit chat, so that was a
Yeah.
rough playing game too. How
Well, I
did
got
go?
very nervous.
Sure.
And so I think I should have not played U-wing reinforcements, and I think I probably would have won the next turn because I did have enough health on my base that I could have taken whatever Krayt Dragon
Hmm.
threw at me and then still be able to beat him down enough. But it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was super nervous and everything, so
I find I learn the best lessons from making the mistakes at the table. Like
yeah.
when I make a misplay, that's what gets in my head. Oh, I'm not ever gonna do that again. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was a big learning moment. So second and third game I won.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So like pretty easily, like I really love how aggro Leia is. And that was kind of, I mean, I was already kind of nervous just because of pace of play and all that.
Hmm.
So I was like, just hit him as fast and as hard as I possibly can. So
So any set 2 cards that have stood out for you?
Y-Wing. Y-Wing is the best card for Leia.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah. It won me those second and third games.
When you're
Yeah.
attacking with it, do you feel like people are putting the damage into their units because they don't want to let it go to base?
Exactly. And then that clears the board. It allows me to control. It allows my units to stay out.
Hmm.
And that's like everything for Leia. If you can keep your cards out, then you're gonna win eventually because you're just gonna pummel.
Well, you're
You know?
attacking multiple times
Yeah.
between Rebel Assault,
Mhm.
the new one that I'm drawing a blank on,
Um,
Outflank,
Outflank.
and Leia's leader ability. You have a
Mhm.
whole ton of ways to like send
Yeah.
multiple units in, and therefore you're using less actions. You can claim earlier, so you can go for it. Like, there's a lot
Mhm.
that Leia has going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, Outflank has worked really well. It's just basically it's kind of a worse Rebel Assault, but I guess you can use it on things that aren't Rebel, which doesn't matter to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, hitting somebody with 3 units is just awesome.
Yeah,
So
chat is agreeing with you that Y-Wing is a great card,
yeah.
which I mean, it did well for me in my pre-release, but I never thought I would be saying it's a great card.
Yeah, well, it comes out super early,
Hmm.
and then just pinging them constantly, like I think people were really frustrated about it. So
I
yeah,
so we've got Mud Turtle in chat observing that it should just straight up replace the 2 cost 2/3 X-wing
yeah,
in all these, and I can agree with it. It's like an X-wing with upside.
yeah, just like that. What is it? The Death Trooper or whatever. It's got Sentinel plus it has like another ability. It's
The
basically
Phase 3
yeah,
Dark Trooper is a
yeah,
strict upgrade if you're playing
yeah,
Command over the Cell Block Guard
yeah.
for
That
sure.
is obsolete now.
Yeah. Well, unless you're not playing Command.
Yeah, I guess so. So, but yeah.
Have there been any cards? I mean, since it's kind of a set 2 release celebration, have there been any set 2 cards that have not that you've seen on the other side of the board that were like, oh man, not this one?
I mean, Crate Dragon, Poe, Wrecker.
Sure.
That like young Han like aggro deck
Mm-hmm.
had me pretty scared. Just because I've seen how powerful it is. I've seen lots of videos on it. I think Star Wars Dad came up with it.
We just saw one win.
Yeah.
A young Han deck just kind of
Mhm.
frog stomps Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And we had Alan here talking about how his Grand Inquisitor deck was throwing out 18 damage in one turn.
Jeez.
He was not able to combo off against
Mhm.
young Han. He got
Yeah.
ran down.
I think Zach, who's 3-0 right now, he did beat the young Han that I played against, but it was really close, like 29-30.
Sure,
So,
sure. Those are the most
yeah.
fun games.
Yeah, those are the most fun for sure. So, yeah. But yeah, that has me like the Poe record combo is really really good. And then I also think that Palpatine might be like a really good card for the new set, like as an old
The
leader.
leader or the
Yeah, the
okay,
leader.
okay.
Because like just taking control, you're not capturing, you're just taking control of the big boom is gonna be incredibly
If you
important.
just straight up steal somebody's crate
Yeah,
dragon,
your
that's
crate dragon. Yeah, and you're not playing the card, so you don't even spend to like take damage because you're just deploying, you know? But yeah, that takes care of well, just about everything. So,
so as far as an event, the set came out yesterday. Nobody's really had time to even sort their cards, much less have their full play sets.
mhm.
How do you feel about the timing of this tournament as like a release thing? Like, hey, we're all kind of coming in with decks that haven't been fully tested and proven. Does that change the calculation or the feeling in the room when you're competing?
It evens the playing field, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody is still kind of learning their decks. That's another reason why I chose Leia because it's something that I'm super familiar with, you know?
I
So,
even with a game where you're super established and picking the familiar deck is almost always good advice.
yeah,
Even if you know the whole meta inside and out, picking the deck that you know the best, at least for me, I feel like the time to learn how a deck works is not after I've
yeah,
paid my entry fee. It's before that.
yeah, exactly. So, I suspect that that won't last. I'm sure that like we'll build our meta,
Oh, pairing's going up.
let it go. So, thanks, guys.
Billy versus Eric. Table 6 is Evan versus Brent. Table 7, Matt versus myself. Matt. Table 8 is Jason Egley versus Brent. What? What's your favorite?
All right. So everybody likes Y Wings, I guess. I was actually talking to Billy over text this morning about this deck, and he was like, "Hey man, do you have any Y Wings I could use?" I'm like, "Dude, I have some Y Wings you can have, bro." Okay, so Tarkin, we got a set one leader here. I think while these players are setting up, I'm going to take a quick trip to the bathroom. I will be right back.
It's gonna hurt me for the random rolls. It's Eric, so he'll have it for at least an hour. He will lose it again. Write his name on it, something. I have no idea. He's gone through like 6 of these things. And then quit. He won one.
Let's get this music turned back down. All right, so Tarkin versus Cad Bane. Okay.
You guys need, and you didn't get a lot of product, we have uncommon and common sets for $65. It has all commons and all uncommons that are in the set, including the common leaders.
I think somebody asked in chat how many players earlier, and we have 16. So I kind of agree with Mud in chat. Uh, Cad Bane seems cool, but I have not had a ton of success with him. I like his gimmick, but it feels a little bit narrow. Um, and narrow often translates into predictable, which can be which can be dangerous. So I think it's too early. I'm not writing Cat off yet, but he has at least thus far not met my expectations. Feel like being able to just spam out a ton of low cost underworld affiliated dudes and like McClunkies and discarding cards with Bazines and like it feels like it should be cool, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet. Basically, that shell that I was trying to use in CAD, I ended up. Oh man, I don't remember the name of that card. It's the new one cost guy, Crichton. Kintan Intimidator. So when he attacks into somebody, you can exhaust the defender. He's a 1/4, kind of like a utility tool. Um, taking CAD to SCG Con. Well, I hope it works out for you, Banana. Prove me wrong. I'm rooting for you. Oh, those are fighting words. Vizine is awesome. Uh, I think this might be the first time I've had to disagree with chat today. But Bazine is the opposite of underwhelming, in my opinion. Okay, so the Emperor's Royal Guard comes down, and that makes the Yularen a little bit more annoying. So initially, Yularen wasn't doing much because there's no damage on base, but now we have the Sentinel turned on for the Emperor Royal Guard, and oh, I love seeing that Boba Fett come down. Um, Harkin doesn't have a good answer. One more damage being accrued on the Yularen due to Cad's ability from Boba Fett coming into play. If Tarkin doesn't have a good answer for that Boba Fett, he is going to annihilate the Emperor Royal Guard next round. Yularen swinging in for 2.
On the deployed side, I do the same thing, but just cosmic.
The initiative token is sitting on Cad's side, although kind of thought Cad took last action, but no, he must have been able to claim. Oh, recruiting. Okay. So the Gamma Guards come down as a 4/4 with Sentinel since there's other cunning units in play. They're able to throw out some ping damage. Uh, I thought we'd see the Catan guy exhaust the Royal Guard there and then Boba clean it up, but now a card like Command is the reason you play double green. So 2 experience tokens are going to go onto uh, the Emperor's Royal Guard, and the command itself is going to go into the row. So Tarkin just ramped and beefed up his blocker. Again, though, I don't feel like that puts Cat in that bad of a situation because you send the tan guy in, you exhaust the Royal Guard, so he's not going to be able to get attack value out of it, and then ultimately Boba Fett's going to swing in and be able to do 6 damage to that thing and clean it up. And then next turn, when Cad recruits an underworld character, that's going to take care of Yularen without ever having to attack into him. Do you just crash the Yularen into the Gamos just to try to get some value out of him? Put a couple damage somewhere? Okay, Tarkin comes out. So that heavily implies to me that he intends to crash Yularen into the Gamorrean guards, because 2 from Yularen, 2 from Grand Moff Tarkin, that gets the guards out of the way, puts another experience counter on the Royal Guard. I guess I can't just say the guards. We have Gamo guards and Royal Guards in play here. For some reason, Gamorrean guards just make me want to say Gamera, like that old Bobo version of Godzilla from back in the day. Oh, I see Mud Turtle in chat talking about Saga Season 2. If you're looking for a webcam league uh, and you want to get some games in, signing up for the Saga Webcam League is the correct line of play. Absolutely. All right, so that experience token's going to have to go on Yularen instead because the Royal Guard is gone. And then, oh, and now the Royal Guard does not have the Sentinel anymore, so it will push some damage through. I would have thought that Yularen would have, with the experience, oh, plus the Moff Target. That's what I was forgetting. Math is hard. Okay, so Gamorrean guards are back online with their Sentinel. So Forlom must have attacked Yularen, and then the ping went into Tarkin there. Forlom was able to attack because of ambush. I believe he's a 4/4 with ambush and then some text that benefits Zuckuss if he's in play. So 4/4. That one experience token for Tarkin made a pretty significant difference there, because without that, Yularen could have been pinged simply by Forlom entering play with Cad Bane's ability, and then we'd be looking at that 4 damage going into Tarkin instead. All right, so ECLing in the ATSD. Imagine Tarkin wants to clear Forlom there, right? Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. As much as you want to keep your leader around and you don't like getting uh, damage stacked up on your leader, making sure your opponent's board is naked, particularly with how Forlom and Zuckuss interact, that's that feels pretty good. Well, and how many other tricks does Cunning have? Surprise strike and on and on. kind of get the impression that CAD is sort of trying to deal with the board first and then deploy. And I'm not sure he's going to have time for that. I think CAD might have to deploy into this board, even if it's unfavorable, just to just to start contesting. Yeah, I I like that play. As much as it's kind of a bummer to throw out your underworld guy and not get the Cad Bane trigger for the ambush, I think you just have to get Tarkin off the board. Kind of like Tarkin had to swing into Forlom to make sure the Zuckus combo couldn't happen. Oh, so he did get the Cad Bane trigger. Oh, okay, because Cad wasn't readied from the previous round. Okay, so that damage will go onto the ATST. Another ATST enters play. So these ATSTs each have 6 attack and overwhelm. So they're representing like not lethal, but awfully close to it. Ads out there now. You just, man, I feel like Tarkin probably just swings into CAD. I mean, he could just turn and start racing and make CAD deal with the board, but yeah, okay, he's just racing. And since that unit has an experience on it, takes him all the way up to 16. What do you do here as CAD? So he's got a space unit out now, but there has to be some way to address those ATSTs. That represents another 13 damage, and if Tarkin goes off first, I mean, that represents lethal. I mean, Tarkin thinking about the plays here, but I'm not sure Grand Moff Tarkin really even needs to do much more other than just maintain. Those ATSTs are pretty banged up. There is a bunch of damage stacked on them. So potentially, like, if we could start to see some McClunkies or something, some kind of damage here. All right, Cat. So Cat's just gonna swing straight into it. I mean, I guess that's better than letting him swing into you with his overwhelm. How much HP does Cat have? Is it 8? Yeah. All right. So he has 1 to give after swinging into that ATST, which is terrible. If Tarkin can spawn, he'll be able to kill Cad and still push 5 damage base. Now, if he opts for that play instead of the pure chase, That will put a little more damage. Well, but it's not even going to be lethal damage on that ATST. Yeah, this is a tough spot for our CAD player.
What do you think? $20 for all of them then? Well, you gotta have those bones and I'll take it, yeah.
I think that's what the other token is on the ATST is the -3 from Starfighter, yeah. But doesn't that go away at end of phase? All these new cards, I don't have them all memorized.
He does that. Yeah. Well, I've got a good balance.
Ooh, I like that Fennec card. Gosh, you know what I like about Fennec? I like that Fennec, in addition to being a fantastic card, a little bit of a build around. You do have to get like differently costed cards into your KO pile for her to really shine. But she's an uncommon. So like she's like Boba Fett, but affordable and able to be located. It looks like 2 damage going on to our other base here. Yeah, I agree with Banana and Chat that Fennec is the damage dealing top end threat that Cunning really needed. Okay, we see looks like command over there in our Tarkin player's hand. I think that's legal authority, which if I remember right, lets him capture somebody. Yeah, so playing that legal authority onto the oh, right on, thanks, man. Playing that legal authority onto the phase 3 Dark Trooper and then kidnapping and capturing that Fennec could be pretty decent. Getting command out and putting a couple +1s on I mean, do you ramp again? Probably not. You probably put +1s on something and then well, that would get the Dark Trooper up to 5. So then he could probably strike the space unit and kill it. He put those two under there in such a way that one completely covers the other. Okay, so getting a unit back out of the discard pile and 2 experience tokens on the phase 3. Looks like our Cad Bane player claimed. And then Tarkin puts another one. Oh my goodness. So that phase 3 Dark Trooper is now a 6/6. Yeah, Fennec is pretty good to deal with Snoke as well. I like that she's not heroic or villain affiliated either, so can go into both sides. Okay, so Cad Bane's ship is going to come out. So you can... I believe his effect is a May. Okay, so he is opting to put the smuggler back into play to exhaust a unit, so no value, at least no combat value out of that phase 3 Dark Trooper this turn, and Cad Bane is able to ping him for 1. I mean, it's a start, I guess. You're going to have to start chipping away at that phase 3 Dark Trooper at some point. Ugh. And now comes the legal authority. Kidnapping Fennec. I think if you're on the Cad Bane side of this, that feels pretty bad. That feels pretty backbreaky. I mean, it's not completely over yet, but gosh, that was a strong. Oh, so on the one hand, you like seeing a Darth Vader come down that gets no value out of his ambush. On the other hand, this is one action that's going to produce multiple bodies to the board. And Cad is in the position of not wanting to lose the board, and the board seems like it may be lost. Not a lot of health value to play around with here. Things are starting to look pretty desperate for Cad. Now, all that said, an evacuate would change everything. So there are cards in Cad's colors that could make a big difference here. Cunning could be good here. Exhaust 2, bounce 1, buys him another turn. But really, evacuate is probably the Hail Mary that he needs. Outmaneuver buys him another turn, but none of this is really good enough. All right. So I was handed 2 league play packs. Actually, I'm gonna wait and we'll open these after the game. I've got these 2 packs that were just handed to me. It's hard to not just tear right into them. All right, remember to ready your leader too, Cad, and your units. I mean, I guess we know Cad is holding the smuggler starfighter, so that can zero out the attack from one of the dark troopers. So that's something. But we're still looking at 11 damage this turn, so we're 1 off lethal. A Tarkin activation puts us at lethal. So unless Cad has some way to actually exhaust and deal with these units, it's over. I mean, it's possible Cad has something here. Yeah, that's not gonna get there. 1 Tarkin activation will. Okay, so rather than zeroing out the fresh phase 3 Dark Trooper, that he put the -3 on the buffed up phase 3 Dark Trooper, but that doesn't actually change the math. It just requires Tarkin to have to activate 1 additional time to get through to lethal. So with Tarkin activating here and putting a +1 on Vader, there is now lethal on the board. So I don't know if Cad's going to see it or not, but you have to exhaust at least one of these units or you're going to die this turn. Well, exhaust or kill. I mean, sure, you can put damage on base, but that... Oh, does the CAD thing go off when it attacks and when it comes into play? That's cool. I actually didn't realize that. Okay, so that'll let him exhaust something.
Yeah.
Man, that's rough. So if he would have put the -3 on the fresh Dark Trooper and then exhausted the beefed up Dark Trooper, like as it is, that -3 basically did nothing. But you don't always know. This is why turn sequencing is so important. It's why it's one of the most important skills that you can develop in not just Star Wars Unlimited, but these kinds of card games in general. Sequencing things in the right way to make sure you're getting maximum efficiency and optimum plays is very difficult. It's a skill a lot of us have to work at. Uh, and especially when you're under pressure, it makes choosing the optimal lines that much harder. Well, there's the Zuckus, but too many turns too late, so Cad's gonna exhaust. I think do you claim here? No, you probably attack because Vader can put 6 damage. That'll make it a 3-point game. Even if Cad claims and gets first action, I mean, we're kind of back where we were. He's gonna have to have multiple exhaust effects or an evacuate or something, or he's just looking at lethal again. Oh, no. So overwhelming barrage, give me +2 to Vader. So he's 5, 6, 7, 8. So are we still 1 off lethal? Okay, that's it. All right, yeah. So CAD's done. Uh, it took a while to get there, but I think Banana was correct in chat when he kind of called it way back with the double ATSD turn. Uh, it took literally everything Cat had to try to fight off that specific threat, uh, and he didn't have anything left for the subsequent threats. The Fennec play was really good from Tarkin as well, getting Fennec captured with that legal authority. Right as that Phase 3 Dark Trooper was looking at being killed by that Fennec and then able to beef it up even more. It just they there were a couple of opportunities there where Cad might have closed the gap, but ultimately, uh, Tarkin was never able to let him walk through the door. All right, let's reset these health values here so we're ready for the next game. And then, all right, let's see what we got. So we got our Shadows of the Galaxy weekly play pack. And we got, all right, I'm already very happy with the hyperspace Phase 3 Dark Trooper. This card is good. Hyperspace, Grogu, and alternate art Infant's Nest. So I definitely am excited to get the hyperspace versions of the starter exclusive cards. Those are the ones that I like to put into my binder. I'm not sure what I'm even going to do with Infant's Nest, but the idea of having like an all ambush deck with like a Fennec leader, maybe mix it with green and do timely interventions in there so you can give everybody. All right, so calculated lethality is a beautiful card. I might have to put this card into my decks just because I like how cool the hyperspace looks. Um, Feels a lot like a takedown. It's going to hit a lot of things that takedown hits. Uh, Man, that's a gorgeous card. Then we got a Night Owl Skirmisher. Whatever. And finally, Django Fett. Now, what's interesting about the Django Fett, uh, all the cards in these weekly play packs have their own rarities. So there's the hyperspace versions of the starter exclusive cards because you can't get those in packs. So this is how we get the hyperspace versions of those. Then there's the glow border cards, and then there's the alternate art cards that are rare uh, within the collector packs. But interestingly, this time around, this card is actually a rare within set 2. So your weekly play packs, in addition to giving you the hyperspace of the starter exclusives and alternate art cards, alternate art versions of hot cards like Sabine or Bosk in set 1, you can now actually fill out your play set with rares with your weekly play packs. So very, very cool. Uh, as always, the art on these cards looks fantastic. I have not understood the criticisms of the Star Wars Unlimited art uh, at any point. Well, Chewie looks a little weird, uh, but the general comic style, I think they've done quite well, and the alternate versions they give us in these weekly play kits, I think look dope. Like the Greedo. Well, I will criticize the Death Trooper because he looks like he's holding a squirt gun. His blaster's too small in the alternate art Death Trooper. But generally speaking, the weekly play packs have gone really well. So we man, was that round 5? Round 4? Uh, we've been at it long enough that I'm now forgetting how many rounds I've done commentary for today. So I'm gonna see if there's anybody who wants to come in here and chat about their games. I'm gonna throw the music up for just a second, and we'll be right back. Just heard somebody say they went 3-1, so we must be 4 rounds in. All right, they're announcing top 4. So first place went 4-0. Jansen's in 3rd and Zach in 4th. Okay. I don't know who's on what decks.
Can we?
All right. We're going here.
Zach, did you play Brian yet? Adam first your pick. But you played all 3 of us. Oh, okay. Have you played Brian? Okay, cool. And I haven't played Adam, so we'll just split it like that. Adam and Andrew split it, right? Yeah. Well, the only top 2 are split.
Okay. So we've got our top 4. Players are some discussion about how the top 4 is being set up right now. Okay, so as everybody is well aware, product is pretty limited. Even here with set 2, So the price support for the top is, I think, 3 packs for first and second, and then 1 pack each, and then everybody got a league promo pack, I think, for each round. I'm not actually sure because I'm over here in the closet, so the players can't hear the commentary. All right, so young Han Solo and Tarkin Town. I just feel like that should be on the red side. What's up, man?
I'm getting them paired.
So we got young Han Solo and Tarkin Town, and who's he facing?
MJ, Michael Jansen.
Okay. Yeah, Jansen came in here and was talking about having a crate dragon in play, and Bill played Ewing, which is 7, and then each one of the units that comes out is another. Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing that I've discovered today is how bad Ewing is into crate dragon.
Change of Heart's really good against Great Dragon because you can steal their Great Dragon, and you can do they can do the damage to their own Great Dragon if they wanted to. So it's just kind of a weird interaction. So
I guess that would prevent it from being stolen, right? Because the dragon's a 6/6,
you
or
can allow
no,
the
that
dragon
no
the 10/10,
10 times. Yeah, that's
but then it at least lets you deal with your opponent's Great Dragon. I guess I don't know how. Change of Heart. There's
I mean,
gonna be some weird interactions with that card.
yeah.
They're just weird. Vader hurts on it. Great Dragon Vader hurts.
And-
Home 1 hurt.
Anything that lets you play extra cards is going to be terrible in the
Yeah.
crate dragon.
Yeah. Well, control. It just Iden got a huge. I think Iden got a huge bump. Like all the control decks, that's just a finisher form. Less mill strategy, more finishers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, it lets you really shut the door. Even if your opponent has a good answer, they kind of can't play it now because they'll die if they do.
if I'm a control deck, I'll play that thing for 11 all day.
So is this Tarkin into Tarkin Town? What's Jansen's base?
I'll go look. I'll be right back. What's your base?
What's the Echo base? Okay. No, it's okay. I can see it now, man. Okay, so we've got young Han, ECL into Han with, I think that's Tarkin Town.
Yeah, one's Tarkin Town, one's ECL.
All right, so 225 hit point bases. This should be a quick one.
I think it's best of 3. I don't know what they're doing. I
Okay.
gave them the choice, so
Cool. Well, I'm cool with it either way, man.
I gave them the choice, and then they're really dialing up the price support at the end. So it's top 4 is really just splitting all the way down. So
It looks like chat was able to tell what the base was easily.
just not us here.
Yeah, just my old eyes.
Well, this is not the most ideal big screen. I should have let you have. You see that big screen I had on the desk? You could have just grabbed that.
I mean, when I've done it before, I've used the OBS display.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
Okay, no OBS for me.
So given what we've seen today, I have a feeling that Han Tarkin Town is somewhat favored here. Both of these bases offer an aggressive slant to a leader that has kind of a pseudo built-in kind of soft ramp, which definitely lends itself to aggressive strategies as well. And Command does offer a lot of good options here. You've got your Battlefield Marines, your Echo-based defenders, although I'm a little cold on that unit. But you're outflank. There's a lot of things throughout the curve as you go up the curve. Steadfast Battalion famously was a very popular card with ECL in set 1. So there are a lot of options that are going to be brought to the table on Jansen's side of the board. But those double red options are really good too. You've got things like Saw. Now we don't know how heavily Han is going to rely on events. So maybe Saw isn't the tool in this matchup the way it would be in like a Han into control matchup. But even aggro decks sometimes want to play their open fires or their daring raids, or like there are events that matter. And Saw punishing you for those events, and then that's not even to mention the card aggression in and of itself, which can get a lot done. That looks like a turn one Sundari Peacekeeper, I think. Yeah, ECL Wrecker is brutal. Wrecker is a surprisingly good 6-cost card. Uh, I was skeptical about him making a cut in my Sabine list, and he has been worth it. That card's called Heroic something. So Heroic Renegade on the Tarkentown side of things, 2/3 with grit. And those Sundari Peacekeepers on the ECL side of things were a 1/5 with raid and restore. But they get taken out by Tarkentown immediately. Looks like a Bo-Katan came down for Tarkentown. Functioning essentially as a 3/3 right now. We need to see 15 damage on bases before Bo-Katan can do her thing. Answering the Bo-Katan with K2SO. Now, see, this is one of those plays I really like. When you put the damage on K2SO, sometimes you can have these awkward turns where you play out the K2SO and you can't get him dead. You can't get him killed. So Young Han letting you stack a little bit of damage on K2SO and then you go crash him into something really guarantees that you're going to be able to. What did he hit him with?
Daring raid, maybe. Daring
Yeah, Daring Raid. Okay.
Tarkentown's just really taking.
So K2SO is forcing a discard? Yeah, okay. Our ECL Han opting to force discard, leaving Young Han down to 1 card. So this is an interesting place to put the Tarkentown player. Han's ability is functionally blank if there aren't cards in your hand to play at a discount. So now our ECL player, if he can chip away the existing board, the ability for Tarkentown to refill is going to be much diminished given the size of his hand. It's kind of weird to call out players by base name rather than by leader, but I guess when they're playing the same leader, we got to do what we got to do. Consortium Star Viper.
That glare.
Yeah, when we do this in the future, I think I want to try to get a better angle so we can make sure the glare is better.
I think it's a 9 now.
I'll double check it. That way we can keep track.
Wow, a lot of stuff coming down. So despite the anemic nature of Tarkentown's overall hand, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of cards in hand. If the few you have are super relevant things like K2SO. So between K2SO, the Heroic Renegade, and Bow, we're looking at what, 9 damage on board. This Consortium Star Viper for our ECL player could potentially take the edge off that a little bit, and ECL has not yet been used, so there is still opportunity to get back into this game. But the door feels like it may be starting to close. The life total, you've lost a third of your base's life, and this board state does not look. It certainly looks like it's favoring Tarkentown at the moment more than ECL, at least from my perspective. We're going to see the Echo Base Defender get cleared up here. I'd probably send K2SO in to guarantee. No, looking at Bow. Okay. Stat wise, that makes sense.
Missed the trigger.
only got 15 health left. On the bow kill.
But it doesn't have to be 15 damage, or is it 15 remaining
I
on
think it's
bow?
15 remaining. I'd have to look at it. I don't know the cards that well.
Yeah, especially the new ones.
Just kidding.
Or no, wait, she's
Gotcha moments all day.
15 or more damage on base. Yeah, so
Oh.
nobody has 15 yet.
Yeah, now we do.
I think Jansen's damage is off again.
It's like 16.
Yeah. All right.
He's just going phase. What do you do?
Yeah, it definitely seems like Tarkentown has decided it's time to race, and that's probably accurate. Oh, aggression.
And readied. It's over.
Yeah. We're getting to the point now where K2SO being on the board almost represents lethal on his own.
He does. 25 base.
Oh yeah, we're at a 25 hit point base, yeah. So we need to see an ECL answer right now.
Didn't he hasn't ECL'd yet?
Not yet. I mean, attacking with the Star Viper will give him some healing, but it's not going to be good enough. Killing K2SO will leave him with 1 to give. Killing Han
Crushing's just so good.
will leave him within kill range of K2SO. So we got to see something here that deals with both bodies that are on board. Otherwise, basically,
he's got Han's leadership active.
yeah, pretty much anything.
And he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 resources. So technically, what is it? An 8 or higher you can play?
Yeah,
Is it only 1 on his flip side, or is it 2?
I still think it's 2 damage. I can't.
Or I know it's 2 damage, but is it 2 play for 2 less? There it is. On its flip side,
Still 1 less.
1 less.
Yeah, so the same ability on both sides.
He's got 7. 5, healed 2. He healed 2, 19, and then took 4. So it's 23.
Oh, there it is.
Got him. Daring raid for the win. Jesus, what a day.
Did they decide if they were doing best of 3?
We're gonna find out here real quick.
Yeah, I guess.
I let the players decide.
So that is it.
I was the first tournament. People are struggling. A lot of gotcha moments today. A lot of misplays. Like I was playing in the tournament. I missed a play completely.
Well, when there's new cards, it's a thing that happens. And I don't think there's anybody who would like take advantage of that and try to like shoot an angle. Like if people make misplays, it's because we make misplays when the cards are new.
I got my Java showcase though today, so.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's
You
cool.
wanna see it?
Sure. Java showcase. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I just overheard best of 1. So my guess is that means we are going to see a change of player here, and then we're going to finish this tournament.
Another one.
There's a showcase in this pack. Oh, there's the Java.
This best of 1.
Look at that Java. Now that's a gorgeous showcase.
I'm collecting the command villains.
That might be one of the best looking showcases they've done so far.
I don't know. I think Palp's #1 still.
Wow. You might be biased there too. Big Palp fan over here, huh?
I just
What'd you play today?
I played Tarkin.
Yeah.
I did the Tarkin space. It's pretty good.
Okay.
So I did that. I've been on that for 4 or 5 weeks now.
The yellow version with
Yeah.
like swoop down and strafing gunship.
I don't. I have strafing in the sidebar. I've been playing it for a few weeks now, and I
Okay.
don't. I just don't think it's good enough in the main board. People can argue with me, whatever they want.
I mean, they
They
probably.
took sneak attacks out because I just don't think it's good enough. A couple players that I played against were playing Tarkin Yellow, and they thought sneak attack didn't kill a Phantom. Well, yeah, enemy cards on the Phantom. Sneak attack still defeats your Phantom at the end of the round because it's not an enemy
Yeah.
card.
Oh,
So
yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So and I saw a video out there that said otherwise, and I was just like, no. But I'm just you got to get the right card draw on it. It's
Hmm.
very dependent. It's a lot of fun, but it's just so dependent. And honestly, I lost because the lines of play in that Tarkin deck are very finicky. And I don't think Tarkin might is Tarkin the best leader for that? Probably not. I think Bubba probably would be the better leader in that deck.
Sure.
Maybe go Bubba with that package and then probably just go double yellow space Bubba would probably be a lot more powerful. It's just these new leaders just don't think their power levels where leader ones are, and Bubba just so strong with that resource.
So I can definitely tell we've seen this Kylo deck at the table before.
Oh, look at this health thing.
Did you notice how he
You
set
want me
down
to
his
just
health and moved it? That like it was out of frame and he moved it into frame.
I'm gonna have him move just a little more closer.
That works. That's very helpful. All right, so we started the day with Kylo Ren, and we are going to end the day with Kylo Ren. So Kylo Red going into Han Red, a nice light side versus dark side battle here at the end. Um, thanks again to Geek City Games for hosting us today and letting me tear into the ceiling so we could run the wires for this. And wherever your local game store is, call around, support your local shops, join the local community. Being able to get out and see people, it can be as a socially awkward person myself, I understand going to the store can be intimidating, but this is where you meet a great community. So definitely support your local game stores wherever you're at. Um, Also, reminder if you want to get some webcam games in because you don't have a local game store you can support, or if you want to get those training reps in before you go to your locals, the Space Arena, Ground Arena, Saga Podcast webcam signups are open. You can find that information linked to our Discord on our YouTube. Okay, so we got players shuffling up here. I have a feeling this is going to be another relatively quick game given how aggressive both these decks are. I'm really curious if Kylo is going to be able to do what we've seen him do a couple times today already, which is kind of play like I'm not far ahead, I'm not doing that much, and then on turn 4 explode for 10, 15 damage, uh, and just close the game out. Okay, we got chat claiming Kylo Red is the best aggro deck. I'm not yet convinced. I think it's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not convinced it's the best. But I'm open to that ultimately being the possibility. And if I do come to that, I'll give Mud credit for getting there before I did. So sometimes in some games, going first is everything. In some games, the dice roll almost decides the whole game. And that generally isn't the case in Star Wars Unlimited. Because of the action economy, going first, it still matters. And there are certainly turns, are certainly games where initiative decides the outcome. But that's not always the case. It's not even often the case that whoever wins the die roll, that makes like decisive impact on the overall outcome of the game. That said, with a matchup like this, where we have two decks that are not designed to use a lot of actions to put you down, the ability to go first and start this action exchange game, I think it matters a lot. I think who goes first in this game is probably more impactful than it is in a lot of other matchups. Okay, I got chat saying that Kylo doesn't really care about initiative. Okay. I'll uh I'll defer to the person who has more reps with the deck end than I do. All right, so we got a mulligan here from our Targentown Han. He's going to be stuck with this one. So this Kylo deck has spent a lot of time on stream today. Our first two rounds, and now here at the final table, he comes back to us. I think that's a Migs, maybe. And a Green Squadron A-Wing. It drives me crazy that the Green Squadron A-Wing is a red card. I have screwed up and referred to as a command card too many times. So Kylo only able to get one unit out on turn one definitely hurts his ability to gut the hand and get that full 5 attack Kylo by turn four. Now, not impossible. There's still plenty of lines where he can get there, especially if he can use Kylo's ability this turn, discard a card. If that is a Migs, then that'll deal his effect will deal 2 damage to the enemy base, plus then Migs being able to attack, and I think for another 4. A little bit of resource indecision on player. I know that feeling. I'm a huge fan of Migs being in this game. That episode, the Prison Break episode of Mandalorian, is like one of those. We got a guild target coming down on the A-Wing, so at such time that Kylo is able to kill that A-Wing, the bounty will deal 2 damage to target town. All right, 3 damage to base. With kind of expect to see a Kylo activation here. Now the risk is Kylo throws a card away, beefs up Migs, and then Han has some kind of an answer that doesn't let him get value out of that attack. Oh, does Migs let him deal damage anywhere? Ooh, I thought Migs only went to base. That's cool. Oh, wow. So, Kylo activated to discard a card to give Migs +2 attack. That triggers Migs to put 2 damage onto the A-Wing, which then activates the Carabas that the Han player is able to play to kill the Migs and get no value out of the Migs Mayfield. Tarkentown finishes off the Green Squadron A-Wing, which triggers the guild target bounty and puts 2 damage onto Han Solo's Tarkentown. Wow, and a Death Star Stormtrooper entering play. Mud and chat. I'm inclined to agree. Hey, you can have these great quadrants, man. Yeah, all the commons you can just keep.
There's outflanks in there too.
Yeah, you can have those too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all yours, man. No worries. Yeah, no problem, man. Hope you had fun.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's a great record, dude. Congrats. Okay, so Death Star Stormtrooper comes down. Make sure I got my damage correct. Okay. Sorry, I lent my buddy a bunch of cards, and he just returned them to me after the tournament. Oh yeah, Mud in chat saying the guild target bounty is kind of met. I agree. actually am not crazy about any bounty at this point. So I made this observation in the last game. Han Solo being able to damage the K2SO gets him better situated to make sure that K2SO can get killed and get value out of his when defeated, which is a huge part of the value of K2SO. I don't know what that equipment is. Is it relentless, maybe? I don't know. Oh man, I was trying to look up what got equipped to K2SO, and Kylo came out and equipped something. Kylo with a lightsaber, huh? And it looks like, is that no hard cards in the grip? So Kylo's at full strength, functionally making him an 8/8. Yep, so Kylo attacks in with the fallen lightsaber. Deals 1 damage to K2SO, which may or may not be where you want to end up. I mean, I think if you're Kylo, you probably want K2SO to stay alive. Although you're not afraid of his discard, and at this point you're far enough ahead in the damage race, it probably doesn't matter, actually. So K2SO isn't going to be anywhere near big enough to kill Kylo. It's probably not worth it to try to kill the Stormtrooper. Man, what is he going to do? Well, I guess it looks like he's going to attack. Oh, he's actually going to use the Heroic Resolve here? Oh, yeah, he paid 2 for the Heroic Resolve. Okay, so K2SO will get +4 attack, so he's going to attack in for 8. That will be enough to kill Kylo. Okay. So he has the Overwhelm, but I mean, the Overwhelm isn't going to matter from the Heroic Resolve because K2SO has Overwhelm anyway. Uh, feels a little rough if you're on Kylo's side of the board. K2SO goes down. Man, that is a big investment to get him out of there, though. Oh, he went for discard, not damage. Okay, whoops. Premature on my part. I guess he doesn't care about helping Kylo with the whole discard thing now because Kylo's dead. So now discarding cards just prevents Kylo from using his attack buff. So red 3 from Han. I don't think that's enough here. Up to 18 damage out of 25. Han comes out. 3 damage to base, or is he going to clear that Stormtrooper? Ah, clears the Stormtrooper. I'm sure that's not what Han wants to be doing, but like, what choice does he have? He's got to try to deal with the board, or he's just gonna die. Player ready. His guys went, oh yeah, I have to draw and do that stuff first. So Han plus red 3. All right, 2 damage to base with the TIE fighter. That really does make sense. Like at this point, it seems like Kylo just wants to race. Uh, like force Han to have to make the trades. That functionally ends up with Kylo Ren being basically like a blank leader. If there's no units on board for Kylo to power up, he's not doing anything. And now Han has control in both. Oh, oh. So in a world where you have cards in your hand, uh, oh wow, and he's flashing them in for one less using Han's power. Now this is interesting that they have leaders in set 2 that just have straight up actions like this, where they like do a thing. Uh, so the heroic renegade comes out, and Han gets with the +1. Ooh, wow. Okay. Looking tough for Kylo now. This board suddenly got real out of control. Yeah, there are definitely enough uh, direct damage spells in the game now that Kylo could just kill him without having to engage with this horrific looking board. But given that he started by recruiting a unit, I have to assume he's not holding the win the game card. Han attacks in, and of course he's +1 attack because of the effect of red 3. So this game is starting to look quite a bit closer. I actually have no idea what Kylo recruited there because of the glare. We will have that fixed before we do another one of these, I promise. So discarding a card to Poe. Uh-oh. It might be over for Kylo here. Oh, daring raid on the unit, huh? I mean, I guess what else can you do? And Cassian from the row for game. GG. Wow, that was crazy. I feel like there were like 3 big swings. Like Han got out early, Kylo took over, then Kylo got broken. Uh, that was a lot of fun. Thanks again to Geek City Games for hosting us. Thanks to the viewers. It was cool to be able to interact with the chat. Uh, appreciate the players tolerating me, talking over them, potentially making observations about their play. Um, so we have not had events at Geek City every Saturday. Entry today, I think, was $10 for players. Um, we have done the showdowns. We have had tournaments where you played for like the oversized cards. This one today was for packs. Um, so we've done several different types of tournaments. This was the first one that we actually live streamed, and we are absolutely going to do it again. I'm like I've mentioned on the stream, I had to climb through the ceiling to run the wires to make this happen without a trip hazard. I'm leaving that wire there so we can do this again. Um, I'm gonna see if I can get the champion to come in here and chit chat with me for a minute before we sign off. All right, so we're gonna have our champion come in here. He's packing his stuff up, and then we'll get out of here after this. So it seemed like there was a good diversity. I realized on the stream we saw the Kylo Ren deck like 3 times. But from what talking to other players, it seems like there was a mix of set one and set two leaders being played. Uh, although the field seems to have tilted pretty heavily towards aggro. I will try to get a more complete summary of that once I have a chance to talk to the store owner after the event. Um, it would not surprise me though if this event tilted aggro pretty much every time we've played here. It's tilted aggro. uh, it's cool to see Han Solo come out and have a great showing. I was a big fan of the original Han Solo from set one. Uh, so I realize this is not quite the same as the Harrison Ford Han Solo, but I'm still a fan of the character, so I like seeing the leader. Hey. Oh, they're opening their packs first. Oh, I should have left that open so we could have seen the polls. So we're wrapping up here. Again, I'll remind everybody to check out Space Arena, Ground Arena, the Saga Podcast. You're on our YouTube. Check out our Discord. Join our webcam league if you're looking for games. Um, there we go. Okay. Just waiting for the champ to get done packing up, and we'll ask him a few questions and then get out of here. Would have been cool to see the Grand Inquisitor go off. A set one leader who didn't get a lot of love. Came in looking like he had something, but apparently Han Solo was just too strong today. Hey, no worries. Have a seat. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess coming into the event, I realized this is a new set, a new meta.
Yeah.
Like, what was your thinking picking the leader that you settled on? Um,
Well, I just in general, I had played mostly mid range in set one. I've been
Okay.
doing set two. My favorite guys are Han and Kylo. I wanted to run aggro. I wanted to go face this
you
time.
got both in the final game.
Yeah, that was actually a rematch, I think, from turn three, where the second they were both down to like 1 or 2 actions.
Yeah.
And but so that's why I decided to go with Red Han. Just really wanted to go face. 1 second. So my wife's calling.
Sure.
I will call her back in a second.
Oh, gee. All right.
Just let me text her real quick.
Well, we appreciate that. I understand when the wife calls. That's a call you can't ignore.
Yeah. So anyway, I played Han in set one mostly.
Okay.
And so when Han for set two was announced, I was like, Han's my guy.
Yeah.
I gotta go with it. But 7:30 a.m. this morning, I hadn't built a deck yet, so I had a framework in mind of what I
Sure.
wanted, and I went. I was like, I need some help. So it was not my deck list. I borrowed it from TTI Top Cut 16.
Oh, okay, sure.
Faith, I think was the guy's name. I've never played with him, but
Okay.
Faith, great deck.
Shout out.
So it's just a lot of fun, man. It's just got a lot of options. You got a lot of cheap options.
Did you have to make any adjustments? I know, like, since we're all just getting our cards, were you able to make the list faithfully, or did you have to make some substitutions based on your polls?
Uh, no, I think
We
got
had it
pretty
on
lucky. I mean, the biggest thing, and Poe was like MVP in two of my games.
Yeah.
I had a game against the Mono Red Kylo in the finals, but it was the first match, and I was down about 10 damage, and he had a Kylo with a lightsaber and a second unit, a Reckless Gunslinger staring at me. I only had 7 life left at this point.
Those 8/8 Kylo runs are very scary.
Yeah, yeah. But with Poe, I was able to throw Poe into Kylo, defeat the lightsaber. So Poe was able to take out Kylo and throw a second card to get out the Reckless Gunslinger to clear out his board.
Sure.
And then from there, it was pretty easy to come back. I mean, the just didn't have enough gas once I did that. So
And it seems like the final game kind of had a similar moment where there was a big scary Kylo in it, and you were able to piece together enough damage to eliminate him. I mean, we can't see your guys' faces on the board cam, but I felt like Kylo felt bewildered by that. Like, wait, what? I thought I was safe.
I put that heroic resolve on him, knowing his Kylo was coming down that
Mhm.
turn. So I was like, you're either gonna deal with him or he's gonna deal with you. And he went for base, which I'm not an expert.
How do you
with,
feel about Heroic Resolve as a card? Has it performed well for you?
It did.
I guess I realized you built the deck 3 hours ago or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason I picked that deck versus a bunch of others, you know, because obviously a lot of people love Han Ramp,
Sure.
right? And I've seen some Han Blue around. And the reason I picked red was just because I just felt the double red options that came out and the cheap editions, like Daring Raids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of different ways to get damage to base without needing because before it was really just four cause of leaving.
Yeah.
Now you've got Daring Raid, and you can get some extra damage with Poe, and you've got the Chaos of War. You have all these ways. If you're stalled out with units, you've got all these ways now to continue pushing that damage in.
Did you have the Chaos of War in there?
It was in my sideboard, so I didn't have it in against
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, did that feel like a dead card against no hand Kylo? But I guess if it's in your sideboard, it was irrelevant.
Well, I mean, that was lucky because that was the card that got discarded with K2.
Oh,
When I did the heroic resolve on Kylo, I discarded his Chaos of War. So
that's pretty good.
yeah, so that was it was lucky. I mean,
So watching that, I actually changed the health value on screen for K2 to deal damage. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm wrong. He discarded something.
well,
You definitely made the right call. What you clipped was Chaos of War.
yeah, well, given that the deck is new, you know, I had to take some time to do some quick math in my head, and I was
Sure.
like, and I check him, make sure he's got only one card, and you're like, you just gotta, you just take that option, you know, to take away his options. I mean, with Han and with some of the smuggle mechanics like Cassian, I mean, there's
Okay.
a lot of ways to push damage. So I knew just as long as I eliminate threats, it doesn't matter if I have 10, 7, 5 health. You know, you feel pretty confident once you get that clear board. So
Do you think Sabine is still going to be one of the top tier aggro decks, or do you think she's dethroned by Han and Kylo coming in?
I she. I mean, I
Too
feel-
early to say?
I mean, you know, I don't think she's going to be dethroned. I mean, the same.
I agree.
The same tools that Han got, she got. You
Yep.
know, maybe there'll be a bigger push towards people running mono red Sabine for some of the similar reasons. But you know, with Han, you know, and I didn't play it in but one of my games. But you know, like Gorilla Attack Pod, that's its time in the sun now. You know, it comes out. It's a grit unit, and he comes out a turn early as a 6/4 ready. You know, so
And it's got grit too, so the
Yep.
damage is actually a bonus.
it's actually a bonus, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something that Han has that Sabine doesn't. But you know, Sabine obviously gets, you know, dark saber and stuff like that. So I think I don't know what tier I'd rank them in, but they're like 1A, 1B, 1C.
Sure.
I think the aggro decks this set are looking to be a lot of fun. And that's another reason why I decided to try.
Were there any set 2 cards that failed to meet expectation? Either stuff that you had in your deck that was like, oh, this will be good, or stuff that you saw other people playing that felt threatening and then it kind of went off like a wet firecracker? Was there anything that just was flat or disappointing?
These were all best of ones, so it's hard to draw too
Sure.
much from it. But a couple of the decks that were trying to utilize bounties, like at least with Han and how fast he goes, my games were almost all over by turn 4.
Sure.
The bounties weren't enough to overcome just that initial go phase, and always having a lot of options. As far as the deck itself, like I mulliganed one time. I mulliganed one time, and it was actually in the finals. But beyond that, there's a versatile enough card pool now to where it's like I don't feel like I have to fish for one card,
Mhm.
or 2 cards. There's a myriad of options that are in the deck that I feel like I can just kind of work with. These are my first games
Sure.
with the deck. I tried not to play too much online beforehand. I didn't want to. I didn't want to get bored too fast. I want.
Fair.
I know a lot of people. The last month or two between cycles.
Mhm.
There's just the excitement's kind of gone. I wanted to.
I
preserve
grind a
that.
lot of games.
Yeah.
I feel like putting in the reps because I'm not a good enough player to make a deck at 7 o'clock in the morning and then do well. I have to put in a lot of games. And so far, I agree with your assessment on bounties. Generally speaking, I feel like they're too slow. You don't get enough value out of them. Like
Yeah.
they're any action that compares favorably to doing nothing. Uh, I'm looking at kind of skeptically, and I feel like bounties fall into that bucket where
Yeah.
are you better off just claiming than playing that thing?
Exactly.
Too often, in my experience, the answer's been yes.
Yeah, and just in general, that's one of the bigger advantages. I mean, people will squeeze every bit of damage out of their turn and kind of like not put enough importance on initiative and
Yeah.
claiming, and so knowing when to do that, and you got to be fast, right? And if you're playing out for every 1 damage unit or every bounty that you want to do, you just kind of you can't keep up in the race.
I mean, I think we all want to be greedy. Like
Yeah.
it's the inclination as card players to play for maximum efficiency, maximum value.
Yeah,
But knowing when you can leave some value on the table in exchange for something else, like
yeah,
I'm going to leave some damage points to get the initiative when I need it. Like that's very important skills for new card players to learn, I think.
yeah.
I don't want to keep you too long. I know you had the wife calling, but is there anything else you want to plug, promote, shout out here before we wrap things up?
I didn't know Eastern Iowa had a podcast
Oh.
on YouTube channel, so shout out to you, man.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Space Arena Ground Arena.
And obviously, I borrowed the list from Faith.
Okay.
So if anybody sees this, that's
Well,
my list. I'm
yeah,
not getting credit.
PI is another great way for people to get games in. I'm not the biggest fan of Tabletop Simulator, so
Mhm.
that's not. But they run a great ship over there. So if people
Yeah.
are looking for games, I definitely want to shout out to the Take the Initiative League.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be my shout out there, and just like it was just, I felt like it was pretty smooth every game, every turn. Felt like I had good
Yeah,
options.
Jason runs a good ship here as
Yeah.
well as events go.
Oh,
so.
it's awesome for sure.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking a minute to chat with us. Congrats
man.
on the win, and
Thank you.
we'll see you next time. How about
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna wrap the stream up here. Until next time, go win some games.